Welcome to the Fellas Podcast, the ultimate Formula One podcast for fans by fans, where we discuss all the happenings in the world of Formula One. Now, let's get into it.
Hey everyone, this is Simon from Benevo, where we are supporting our next Formula One racer out of the United States. Hey, come and join us for our inaugural 2025 sweepstakes, where we're going to be giving away 2 tickets. That's right, 2 tickets to Miami. You get a 2-day pass at a 2025 Formula One Miami Grand Prix for Saturday, May 3rd through the 5th. That's right, you get 3-night stay at a serene hotel from Friday through Monday. And you also get 2 daily breakfasts. It'll be great. Off the track, you'll unwind in a 4-star serene hotel with stunning panoramic views where opulent comforts awaits. Come and join us. The tickets for this sweepstakes are pretty cheap. They start from $10 to $100, and you guys get the opportunity to go to Miami. It's worth over $6,000 for this prize, so please come on, join us. And you will be supporting a good cause. We will be supporting our next Formula One racer. His name is Truly Adams, and you're helping him get to the next level. So, see you in Miami.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Fellas Podcast, the podcast for race fans by race fans. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things the Fellas. And this week, we're going to be talking about the Brazilian Grand Prix and what a race it was. Simon, tell me, what did you think? Where do we start?
Man, it was a great race in the sense of entertainment, drama, a lot of things for us to talk about today. And I think we're going to hit a lot of topics that a lot of people want to hear about. I think first, though, I think we're going to give a little tribute to Senna and talk about him a little bit. And I'll let you start because you're the historian of the group and you know a little bit more about Senna than most people.
Yes, well, you know, as anyone that watched the race heard, it's the 30th anniversary of his passing. But I have to say, I watched the video on the F1 channel of Lewis driving Senna's MP4 5B McLaren Honda race car around the track in Interlagos, and I got emotional about it. I even had my Senna shirt on that I purchased when I went up to the Grand Prix in Montreal. I got emotional for his passing and how much Senna means to people that know about him and all he did. But I also got emotional for Lewis because he's such a fan of Senna. And I remember when I saw on a Top Gear episode some years back when Lewis got a chance to drive Senna's McLaren, one of his McLaren race cars at Silverstone, I think. And he went around the track. Lewis was still racing for McLaren at the time. and how much fun and how much it meant to him. But then to race the car in Brazil, and when Lewis came around and stopped and got a Brazilian flag from one of the people standing there and started to drive around with it, which Senna did when he won the race, his first race in '91 at that track. As a matter of fact, I did a short about it that I posted on the website, on our channel about that, which included that, I should say. And I just got emotional. I got emotional because I was just like, wow, this is huge. So I enjoyed it. It brought me back to the documentary that was done a few years back where I don't recall the actual date when it was released, but I think it was one of the first times that they did a documentary where they took clips from Senna and him speaking. So you heard him in his own words talking about certain things and how it flowed. I have a copy of that. I don't know. It was great. I loved it. It was very emotional for me to watch. And, you know, I'm really glad they did that.
That's awesome. I do have a few questions for you. Was he racing around the same time that, can't remember his name right now, the leading tied with Lewis as far as championships? Schumacher. Was he around the same time?
Oh, yeah.
They were racing around the same time?
Oh, yeah. Michael was racing at Benetton at the time when Senna was racing. And they were racing hard. They raced hard. Believe it or not, every time the Formula One went to Brazil, Michael always went to visit Senna's grave. He had a lot of respect for him, you know. So yes, they used to race hard.
Yeah, it was a little bit before my time of me getting into Formula One. So it's almost like these new bucks nowadays talking LeBron as the GOAT versus Michael Jordan. I say, well, you didn't watch Michael Jordan play, and I watched both plays. So I'm telling you right now, Michael Jordan is the GOAT. But yeah, I would have loved to have been a part of seeing greatness.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, it's easier to compare and easier to say, man, you know, Michael Schumacher was the best, but you know, how it would have been for him to race against Senna a little bit more before his early exit from this planet. So,
Yeah. Well, I would say to anyone, forgive me that I don't. I know Netflix is coming out with a Senna movie, but I would say I know Apple TV has it. It's all out there. There is another one that was released some years back. As a matter of fact, Top Gear did what Jeremy Clarkson did a piece on that one when it came out, right before it came out. I would say to anyone that's curious, go watch that. You know, watch that, and then you can watch the Netflix or vice versa. It doesn't matter. Um, I believe Netflix, I also watched it, had a documentary on Michael. And that one was very interesting for me because, you know, as a fan, I only saw Michael on track, and you get that steel exterior. You know, they're not going to show, you know, they're not going to show you their weaknesses on the inside. But that one, that documentary on Michael showed him with his family as well. And I'll say this about that one. I felt it when Mick Schumacher spoke about his dad and saying how he was now coming up in racing, and this was the time that they would have really been able to work together. And not to have his father, it hurt. You know, I felt
right.
it.
Kind of the same for Verstappen, the same for
right.
Stroll.
Lewis has his dad there. Max has his father there, and I really felt it for Mick that his dad wasn't there for him. But anyway. Great.
I did hear real quickly that Max Schumacher made an appearance at his daughter's wedding.
I'm sorry?
I heard recently that Schumacher made an appearance at his daughter's wedding. That was
I don't know.
First public appearance. I think it was like a month or two ago. I did hear that. It was in the news. But it's a good segue talking about champions and past champions, talking about the most current champion. Oh man, I am not the most outspoken fan base for Verstappen, but I have to give him his props this weekend. Coming back from 17th to win. I mean, come on, that's unbelievable. I got to give it to him. He was racing and driving like a champion this today, and I have to give him a hand clap and a standing ovation for that. I don't care who you are. If you're a fan of Formula One, you need to respect what happened today.
Well, you know, I'll say this. All great F1 champions were Rain masters, right? Rain is the great equalizer. I agree. Max, I mean, yeah, I mean, I respect Max's craft. He's good. He's a world champion. You could tell, you know, when he was coming up that he's going to be a world champion. And he sure is. He deserves every championship he's won. One is fun, but that's not his fault. That wasn't Max's fault. Max didn't.
Yeah.
Right. That was an error from the FIA. So that I don't hold that against Max.
And if I was Max, I'm not giving that back either. So
right. I don't. But my gosh, to me, seeing how Max ran shows me, nothing against Lando, how much more experience Lando needs. And he has the talent, but Max is light years ahead, you know. And I'll dare say it. No, I don't have to say it that way. Lewis can go up against Max, and Fernando can go up against Max. I mean, but they're all world champions, so they're you know, cut from the same cloth. So it's that kind of ability. He was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, he was absolutely. And you know, getting back to Lando a little bit. Well, let's not jump on Lando. Let's just talk about the penalties that Max had to overcome in the
Yeah,
race, right?
yeah, yeah.
Especially with the penalty, the 5 grid penalty from doing his little antics at the virtual safety car in the sprint
Mm-hmm,
race,
mm-hmm,
and then changing out his power unit and having to be in the
mm-hmm.
back there and not meeting qualifying. That qualifying, I did not get a chance to really see the qualifying the way I usually watch it every race because it was not televised. But I knew that there was some crashes. There was a lot of rain. There was a lot of obstacles everyone had to face.
Mm-hmm.
That gave Lando an opportunity to really gain some points.
Yeah,
And we'll
yep.
talk about Lando and his struggles. But man, Verstappen really did a number of overcoming from 17th to the #1 position. And just a little fun fact: do you know that there's over almost 1,100 races in Formula One that's been raced
Really.
since the time from the very beginning to now? Approximately 1,100, and there's only 5 times in that 1,100 opportunities that someone's come back from 17th,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
he's one of them, right?
Yeah, he's one of them. I mean, listen, again, I've seen it. I'll just say it of world champions that I've seen race. Sebastian Vettel, good in the rain. Lewis, good in the rain. Max, good in the rain. Michael, good in the rain. Senna, good in the rain. Mika Hakkinen, good in the rain. It's in order to be a world champion, you need that. And Max, I don't know. He started 17th, 2 penalties, and yeah, drove it up. And there'll be those that'll say, hey, well, he benefited from the stoppage of the race and the virtual safety car when it came out. Hey, then go catch him when he got out there. No one could. He ran.
And
I believe he finished 20 seconds ahead of Ocon.
yeah, well, it was 19 something like that, 19.6, something like that. But yeah, you could easily say that Lando had an advantage starting at pole,
Yeah,
right?
well, going into that, when you speak about that, just leaving Max for a second, McLaren, the pit wall, the team itself, I know they're not the McLaren that won back in Hackinen's time or Lewis's time. The team is all different now, so they're finding their way again. Getting themselves, they're gelling, starting to. But okay, Oscar came and took the lead and went. He was gone. You already know that you're trying to give Lando the maximum opportunity to get as much points as he can. I'm surprised that they waited until lap 11 to jump on to say, hey, give Lando DRS. I would have thought they would have been on the radio as he did it to say, hey, slow down to let Lando catch up. We need you to swap. And that was something that was interesting because I watched it and I was surprised that they didn't do that. And the thing that
and you're referring to the sprint race, correct? You're referring to the sprint race?
Referring to the sprint race about maximum points. And the thing that I learned from Will Buxton, what he and James Hinchcliffe were talking, is that I didn't realize that Andrea Stella, who's the team principal at McLaren, was at Ferrari during the Rubens Michael era when they were going through that. And Ferrari back then was heavy into team orders. Rubens, who was the one that was doing the interviews, I always feel bad for him when I see him because he was locked into the #2 driver spot at Ferrari. Period. Like they didn't. It was a blue moon when they allowed him to win. When he was able to win, and they allowed him to win. But anyway, so I'm surprised that Andrea Stella, coming from that environment, that's not being imposed here right now, especially for this season, because you're trying to see if you could get Lando to win or to challenge Max. So Oscar would have to slot in behind. But that
my argument to that real quick, Ralph, is if you were quote unquote the second driver for the team and you didn't like it, it was not a comfortable position for you. You made you angry, you were frustrated, and then you become a part of a team. That's something you may say, well, I'm not going to do that to my drivers when I have an opportunity. So that could be. It can go either way.
No.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm saying Andrea Stella was part of the team that was making the strategy calls at Ferrari.
Okay.
He was the driver. He wasn't a driver. I understand
Gotcha.
what you're saying. If it was somebody like Rubens or Mark Webber or something that had I could see that pushback. He's not. And I know it's not a good thing. And Rubens in the when they interviewed him made a comment about it. It's not a good feeling. And I can imagine it's not. I can imagine it's not when you know you have the talent. But at this stage in the game, it should be, listen, we know you got it. Lando. Support Lando. Support Lando. You know, you want to run behind Lando and you want to block for Lando to let him get out there because we're trying to win the driver's title.
So if that's the case, Lando, he should have negotiated maybe $2 million. I'm thinking $2 million is a good price. Should have negotiated with Lando and McLaren to take Verstappen out today when he had an opportunity. He's like, hey man, I take him out, just give me $2 million, put it aside in like an offshore account. I come get it later when I retire. But
that was
early.
He
just let Verstappen right in. He didn't even fight.
Yeah. If this was the early 90s, 80s F1, yeah, that's what they would have done because a lot of world championships back then were decided by that. Senna and Michael, Senna and Prost, and Michael and Jacques Villeneuve. One tried to take the other one out or did take the other one out, but you can't do it now. But yeah.
I know you can't do it now. I was trying to be facetious.
I know.
But at least fight. At least cut him off. At least,
make it hard.
Make it harder for him to pass. And maybe he might make a mistake and spin out. It's raining. Right. But yeah, it was funny when I saw him just pass Verstappen just pass Piastri. I'm like, what's going on?
And you know,
the team orders has to hold him up a little bit.
It's funny when you say that because I don't remember the actual race. It was in 2007 with Fernando and Lewis were teammates. Fernando had the lead. Lewis was running second. It was one of the earlier races. I think it was one of these races where Lewis realized, like, hey, I could beat this guy, or I could win. And I'm not sure. I think it was Kimi Räikkönen in a Ferrari trying to pass Lewis in second. And I remember David Hobbs. I used to watch it on the Speed Channel at the time. David Hobbs, who was a former American driver, said, "Oh my gosh. It's like Hamilton can read Räikkönen's mind because anytime Räikkönen is about to move his car to a certain side, Hamilton moves his car right before. So he can't be, they can't say he's blocking. It's like he's reading his mind. That's what you need Piastri to do, to block Max, to allow Lando to stretch out. But that's the team working together. And the only way I think that can work is if the team has to say to Oscar, like, listen, we need you to do this now. Next year, it's a level playing field. And if the shoe's on the other foot next year, we're going to ask Lando to do the same for you. The only thing, getting back to what you said, Simon, Mark Webber, I believe, is Oscar Piastri's manager. And he was a driver that was being forced into a number 2 spot next to Sebastian Vettel. And it was mentioned at one point that there might be something in Oscar's contract about that because Mark never liked that. So that might be why. That might be.
Yeah, I know it's difficult for Alpha Man. Look, they're the 20 best drivers in the world. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be the 20 best drivers in the world if you don't think you're number one.
Yeah.
If you don't have the number one mentality, I can beat anybody. I can beat the other 19. Just give me a car that's equal. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard to turn that off for somebody else that you think you can beat. So that's kind of a conversation, especially if he's having a good year. Piastri's having a good year, right?
Oh yeah, he's a good driver.
That's a conversation that him and Norris need to have if they're good teammates. I truly believe Valtteri and Hamilton had those conversations without the team. And Valtteri might have said, hey man, I got you if you need my help. Don't even ask for it. I got you. Because he said he's the best teammate he has ever had. So that means they had conversations.
Well, I'm sure they had conversations, but I think that needs to and must be handled by the team. You know, the drivers can talk, but the team is who pays them. It has to be the team to come in and say, listen, this is what we need. The difference with Ferrari back in like the 90s and earlier than that, you knew coming in, this is the expectation. This is what we're going to do. So there was no, oh, you don't want it, then you're not racing for us.
Yeah, but then that would not lead me to say that this is the best teammate I've ever had. That would lead me to say that this is a good partner and this is a good team overall that I've ever had. The team decided on what we're going to do, and the team played their role, and everybody had their job, and everybody did their job. But when somebody says this is the best teammate I ever had, that means they have personal and private conversations outside of the team.
I'm sure, but I also do recall it might have been in one of the very early seasons of Drive to Survive, like maybe the first season, I think. I do remember there was a point where they used to have team briefings where Lewis and his engineers and Valtteri and his engineers would sit down, and they sat down, and Lewis said, "Where's Valtteri?" And they said he is not having group meetings with us anymore. So my point is this: a driver, I take those comments with a grain of salt, unless it's another top level driver, right? In the sense of, yeah, they're a good teammate. Yeah, they're not pressuring you, so you don't have to worry about them. You can focus on the rest of the track. Yeah, that's a good teammate. From a driver point of view, that's good. From a team point of view, that's bad, because the teams want two drivers that are very close in ability to push each other.
Yeah, both of us could be right, both of us could be wrong. So I'll succeed on that. I'll let you. I just feel that Piastri and Lando, I don't know. I think Lando's probably bigger brother to Piastri from an age standpoint, right? And experience. I just don't see Piastri thinking that Lando's a big brother. I think right now he's seeing this competition.
And he should.
And I want to be the number one driver next year. This year I'll play team ball, but yeah, I don't see that.
I'll close it out this way. There have been times where teams have deliberately not tried to have two number one caliber drivers in their team, right? Because it's difficult to manage. Because of this, you have a driver that Piastri was down the road. Like they had to ask him to slow down to allow him to close up. There have been times where teams will deliberately pick, like Sergio. Nothing against Sergio, nothing against him, right? Nothing against him. But I'm saying if Sergio was still driving at the level he was last year, the year before, and so on, he would remain at Red Bull, because even at that level, he wasn't at Max's level, right? But what could the team guarantee? A 1-2 at almost every race, because Sergio was that much stronger that he could battle against, a Hamilton coming up, or yada yada, making it harder for them to come through. And then the rest of the guys that aren't at that level, he can handle them. That's the ideal dynamic you want. But when you have two equally skilled drivers and they're good, it's a lot more to manage. That's all.
Yeah, I think Sergio's checked out from Red Bull. I think he's a good driver, but I think he's just checked out. I think he knows his time is up, and he's like, well, why am I risking my life for a team that doesn't want to give me anything that I ask for or listen to anything that I say? So I think he's checked out, because he was driving good the first year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was either coming in second or third behind Verstappen.
First and second year.
Yeah. Yeah. So something happened. Conversation happened. Somebody yelled at somebody, hurt somebody's feelings. But it's a good segue into Alpine real quick. I just want to talk about them coming in second and third. I was happy for them. I was happy for how they moved up in points. They were in 9th place from the Constructor Championship and their points. Now they're in 6th, right? And if they finish the year in 6th, that's a $50 million payday from this one race.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. One race is a $50 million payday.
Yeah.
And which would help them with next year and the year after. As far as competing, right? Yeah. So I was happy for them. To see them celebrate, see them coming second and third, that was awesome.
I was happy for them. I like Esteban a lot. I don't know much about Pierre, but I do like Pierre. He's nice, but I was happy for them as a team. And you're right, those championship dollars mean a lot. mean a lot. And just to say it really quick is that McLaren has the lead in the constructors, Ferrari is second, Red Bull is third. And the reason, just to piggyback on what you said about Sergio, I believe this is it. He's not coming back. I know he says he has a contract, but I know there are clauses in there based on performance and yada, yada, whatever. I would be surprised if he's back next year because Red Bull lost the Constructors' Championship because of Sergio. And that's money, and that's.
Think about this question. So I asked myself this question earlier. It's like, all right, well, Ferrari's second, McLaren is first in the constructors. What if Ferrari has two good races? Because they're really close. They're not even, I think they're 20 some points away. That's money for Ferrari for Lewis and Charles
next year.
And I'm in my mind, I'm like, all right, Lewis didn't win.
But
Verstappen won the championship, but the silver lining is Ferrari won the constructors, and that should give them a lot of money to be able to compete right off the gate next year. I mean, next year is going to be ridiculous. I don't think anyone's not going to watch the first race, watch the first qualifying, watch the first practice next year. Next year's ratings are going to go crazy because you really don't know what's going to happen next year because all the cars are somewhat at a certain level at this point.
Well, the big change comes in 26. So next year, it's an evolution of these cars, which is good. And if Ferrari keeps on that momentum, they would have a good car next year.
With money,
with the money, and then McLaren, if they continue, it'll be very interesting. The one thing I want to say about Lewis, just to jump off a second, going over there next year, is something that I was watching the race, and I think it was a sprint race that Max was behind Charles, and Max came over the radio, was like, oh, he's making a lot of mistakes, right? Like, because he was trying to get around him, but he was whatever. Contrast that with Lando, and I was like, okay. So I said, when Max said that, I said, yeah, Charles is still developing, like Lewis is an elder statesman on the track, he and Alonso, and Max is a younger gun, but he's good too. So I looked at it and I said, Lewis is going to get Charles to elevate his game. And that's what you would want. You want him, pair him with a driver that he can further develop because he could watch what Lewis does and watch and see a 7-time world champion and see how he operates. But then you also want it to be that he'll still be that firecracker that's going to push Lewis as well, ignite that ultra competitiveness in him, to get the team the results. And I think if they have the car, it's going to be very interesting over there. It's going to be
and I'm hoping, again, this is me just being, I guess, too social and practical when it comes to two drivers. I'm hoping they have conversations in that manner, right? But I know they're very competitive, not only externally but internally too. It's just one of those weird realms and worlds that we are not accustomed to. And but I think if they approach it correctly, they can be a strong team next year.
Sure,
very strong team next year.
Sure.
Because you don't know who Red Bull is going to put in the seat. You know it's not Sergio, so you don't know how that chemistry is going to go.
Right.
And if you look at McLaren right now, someone's going to make a statement in the first race next year.
Oh yeah, it's on.
It's on. So the opportunity for Ferrari is huge, in my opinion.
Yeah,
opportunity is there. All they got to do is just be smart about it. And sometimes that's hard. That's easier said than done. Right.
No, I understand. But it's easier said than done. But having said that, there was just a couple things about this race that, as far as the calls, the penalties, two in question. The one that Max got at the sprint race when they were restarting, and he got on the gas or got on the power like a split second quicker than before the green light came up, but he didn't pass. he held, and then he got back in it, and they penalized him for. I felt that was excessive. I felt, and especially for someone like Max that has gotten away with a lot over the years. But I was like, I think that was a little excessive. You could have left him alone. But the other one during the race was Ollie Berman and Colapinto, where Berman slid into the back of Colapinto's car. Berman spun, came back on track and went, and they gave him a penalty for that. And I was like, how? Even he said over the radio, for what? He goes, he's still on the track, and I was like, yeah, like, how are you gonna give him?
He already got a punishment. He lost a couple of places for it.
Right. So I thought I was like, that's a little excessive, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I understand following the letter of the law, but there has to be some wiggle room there, some discretion of saying, well, yeah, if the person he hit loses a place or loses a significant amount of time because you hit him, yeah, get it. I get it. Give him a penalty. But if it was a hit and the person that hit him was the only one penalized right away based on his mistake, and the other person didn't suffer at all, then you go, all right, well, damage was already done. I don't need to make it.
Leave it alone. Yeah, just leave it alone. I thought that was very excessive. But to sum up this race, I watched it in its entirety from the sprint, qualified down to the race. I have to sum it up with what Liam Lawson said when they interviewed him. It was a crazy race. It was a
crazy day.
It was a
crazy weekend.
Crazy weekend. Oh my God.
Could you imagine if every race, 24 races, at least 10 of those were like that? You'd be stressed out.
Yeah, you'd be stressed. I could feel it for the drivers because they're racing under that. It was crazy, but I enjoyed every minute of it. Every minute of it. But I
like when the rain comes into play because it really Esteban Ocon said this, it really levels the playing field.
Yes, it does.
During his interview. And I thought, I love it when there's a little unforeseen circumstance like weather comes into play, and then this just messes up everyone's strategy, and then now everyone's kind of straggling and making decisions on the fly. Right. I mean, they're doing that anyway, but it's within a plan. It's within boundaries where they're making those decisions within the fly. And when the rain comes, it's like, oh shoot, scrap that. Let's figure out what we're gonna do going forward. So that makes it fun for the fans, for sure.
Yeah, the rain is a great equalizer, and that's that's indeed what it is. Because we saw that. Yes, the strategy went in their favor for Max and for Alpine, for Esteban and Pierre, in that they were able to come in and switch tires, because that was the whole thing that was going on. That's where it went away from Lando and George at that point. But
I feel sorry for George, for Lando. I just want to say this one thing. I felt really bad for Lando this weekend, from starting in pole with his rival being at the bottom, 17th place. I thought he would get at least 15 points to really challenge him for the next 3 races, but to lose points.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things.
Not the day. Huh?
Well, that's one of the things I have where I said it. I said, what a race, Max. What a race. And that was a world champion quality drive. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, yes, I'm a Lewis fan. Yes, I'm a Lewis fan, but I respect the ability. Like, if it was Fernando, I would be happy for Fernando as well. I mean, Fernando, he's an exceptional driver.
Oh yeah.
I felt bad for Lance Stroll. I felt bad.
I don't know what he was doing.
I did feel bad for him. I mean, hey, it's slippery conditions. I can't do that, what they're doing. But it was just bad luck, because if he'd have just backed the car up a little bit more, and he was doing it, he could have just taken the asphalt and came back on, and he'd have been fine. But he tried to go through wet gravel, which is designed to slow the car down. Probably got anxious just trying to, I felt bad for him, especially when you saw him outside the car. I was like, damn, bro, I feel bad for you. You know.
And the race didn't even start yet. And then Albon,
Yeah.
how you crash in a safety car, man?
Well,
How do you crash when there's a safety car?
but you know what, Alex is a good driver. Alex is
I know.
but
if I'm one of those mechanics and the team, I'm like, well, we spent up all night on that car, and my man crashed on. And he wasn't like he tapped the wall and messed up the nose.
no,
The car was pretty much totaled on a safety car. What are you doing?
Yeah, that was
Anyway.
you know, but yeah, and they couldn't rebuild it in time. You know, when he crashed during the qualify, the car was destroyed when you looked at it. I was like, I wasn't surprised when he was on there, but I feel it for him too. I like Alex. He used to race for Red Bull too. He was a teammate of Max.
That's right. Right. So what's your predictions for Vegas, man?
Vegas, I'm still going to say it. I think it's still going to be McLaren. I think it's going to be Lando. I still have faith on Piastri. Max is going to be in the mix. If Max gets pole, he's going to run away with it. But I'm going to say it's going to be Lando, Max, Piastri.
I think Lando is too much in his head right now. The frustration of him this weekend, and his conversations, even with the media, to me told me he's not locked in. Right. He's so frustrated with what's going on. He was frustrated with a reporter from asking about just questions that I want to know as a fan, right? He's like, I hate those questions. I hate when you ask about the points. I'm like, come on now, that's part of the job. You get paid millions of dollars, right, to compete with the 19 other world professional drivers, and yes, you are second in points. Right. These questions are going to be mandatory for you to answer, right? Right. So I don't think he's there. He was frustrated with his team during the race, saying whatever. You know, I was like, I don't think he's locked in to. I think he mentally lost this race, in my opinion, this weekend. Yes, Max did a world champion event today. I'm just going to call it an event. He drove his butt off, but Lando shouldn't have lost points. He shouldn't have lost it on the start, first and foremost. And then he lost it a few times and went back when during the restart. He's just not mentally there. So getting back to the question, I think it's going to be McLaren's going to be there, but it's probably going to be second. I think it's going to be Red Bull, and I think Ferrari's is not done. I still think Ferrari's going to come third. I think I'm still going to go with that. I think it's going to be Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Lando, I can understand his frustration. I mean, hey, your adrenaline is high. He's not happy with the result. He's not happy with his performance in certain ways. You know, he didn't have the time to come down to settle his, calm his emotions and answer those questions, level. He was emotional, so yeah, he's gonna let him know. I mean, hey, Kimi Räikkönen was like that. He would tell you, like, that's part of it.
I just think you almost have to become a robot to become a world champion. Emotions got to come out of it a little bit, right?
Well, yeah, you have to be in control of your emotions.
Right. And I don't think he's there right now. He wasn't there this weekend.
You have to be able to, and I guess if you go across sports, different sports, you'll see it. I know Tiger Woods' father conditioned him to be able to lock out everything else around him and focus. And that's what they do. Lewis, Fernando, Max, they lock in. They just lock in. And yes, they do become somewhat robotic in how they do it. And that's why I say, I think Lando, he has it, but he still has to mature and get into that, He has the ability, put it that way. But that's what differentiated Lewis, Max, Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso. Schumacher, even I never saw him when he came in, but I'm saying these drivers, at least I saw when they first entered F1, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they just had it. They had the ability, but they could lock in. Like when I
think
told you,
Piastri has it?
I think he does. Lando
Yeah,
has.
he
Lando,
does too.
I think he does. I think he does. I think he does. You know,
Yeah.
Lando is going to get it. He is, but I agree with you that he's in his head. Like he has to learn how to rise above that. So his battle is with himself because he has the ability. You know, but he has to just be able to find that in himself to lock in. That's all. Well, okay. So thanks, everyone. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things the fellas. And we will be coming to you towards the end of November with our thoughts on the Vegas Grand Prix. So until then, have a great
Latest.
Take care.